forbidden. Each had its own name for it. Forbid was the word used by the Feywild. Forbidden was the term chosen by the vampire. Both Snow and Chavi were familiar with these words, and yet still they met, evening after evening, hands touching across the wall. It was here that the setting sun's light was shielded by the peak of Mighty Mountain. Chavi was safe from the fire orb's holy rays. Equally, when the sun had finally set and Luna rose to cast her soft beam through the black of night, Snow could soak up the little sun power that reflected from the nocturnal ball. For an hour or two the couple flirted with Forbid and Forbidden, for love oft causes rules to be broken or at the very least bent. Chavi's family turned their back upon him, a non-feeder and a lover of the enemy. Snow's family saw the relationship as something else. Knowingly committing Forbid was an embarrassment certainly, but Snow was their youngest daughter and she was still loved. There was many a sin that girl could commit, for her beauty was renowned and her loyalty to family in the Feywild was unquestionable, but for this sole infatuation. "Where do you go each night, sister?" Snow's brother Sylvie sang every afternoon. He called from the seeking post a league from the wall. The boy knew where it was his sister ventured, but still it was his role to query all who passed. Each Fae played their part to keep the whole Feywild safe. "Where I go be no person's business but my own," was always Snow's reply. Pale of complexion and locks the colors of the sun's light, Snow would then step amongst the drifts and disappear. Sylvie considered following his sister, but the monsters of the night always came when the Lady Luna awoke. They came hungry, and Sylvie as brave as he was, dared not leave the bonfire's warmth and safety. He knew his place, and his place was the seeking post. "Daughter of fire and air, the brightest spark and the coolest breeze, why do you torture us so?" begged Snow's mother and father each dawn. To these the girl was far less spiteful. To those whose love was eternal, Snow showed far more respect when she replied, "Mother, father, the heart pleads. The air calls. I am drawn to feel the warmth of the sun on my skin and the light touch of Luna's kiss." Snow's father kinder considered banning his daughter from her wandering ways, but it would have been easier to tie the wind or hold the reins of winter in a single leaf. He realized that the child that was his wild-spirited daughter would go where and when she willed. Even growing as a child, kinder knew his daughter's wildness and free-spirited nature caused her to venture forth when others wiser or more fearful would remain flat-footed. Snow's mother would not allow her daughter's disobedience to slide by, however. In silence she listened to father and daughter converse. Knowing her husband and the blindness he had toward the daughter's faults, she silently vowed under the sun's rays to follow Snow into the twilight. Thus it was the next night that Sylvie as always called to his sister and smirked at her common reply. As his keen eye caught sight of Snow's older twin, he reacted far differently. "Mother, I cannot allow you to venture forth. It be only an hour before the sun vanishes for the day." "Precious Sylvie, laughed his mother in reply. "Your sweet thoughts I shall wrap around me as a shield. I wish to own bravery such as ye, lioness," said the sun. "I would be striding deep into the drifts with spear thrust forward as a compass and the flames of the home fire the beacon at my back. Light of my life, remain as guardian that the vampire be kept from our door and from our throats." The boy nodded and allowed his mother to pass. Snow's mother, Star, was the mirror of her daughter. Pale where her husband's sun kissed, blonded where her husband chestnut. Like Snow, Star too could slip into the cool drifts and vanish. "Return to us upon the cool winds of night," sang Sylvie as he faintly overheard the crunch of his mother traversing through the hard-packed snows. When the sun reached its final moment of setting, the two lovers sat together upon the wall. Their fingers were entwined. Chavi whispered in Snow's almond-shaped ear, "My wish upon the evening star would be to pull you over this wall and into my waiting arms. To venture this far from home this late is enough risk for myself and my kin to experience," replied Snow. She shivered at the lack of sun's heat and flame's heat too. Chavi made to wrap strong arms around the girl, but bloodless until he fed, his offer of comfort would do naught but make Snow shiver more. To Star it caused feelings of fear and joy to step into the shade Mighty Mountain, spying the young vampire leaning toward her daughter. Resisting the urge to rush forward and strike the monster, instead she paused for a moment and witnessed her daughter pushing away a lover or friend. Such love as she had once felt for Kinder in the early years. Instead she drew slowly nearer. "Greetings, foolish youth," the older called, revealing her position. "Mother, return home, for it is not safe. called Snow, suddenly panicked. "Child, I know of the danger," replied the mother. "What I wonder is, do you?" From the snow's drifts came forth 30 or more dark shadows. As if summoned by Star's voice, they approached the wall. "Flee, crone, that we overrun thee and feed upon the chicks we find within your nest," eerily chorused the shadows as they began slinking nearer. "Stay, friend and family," Chavi cried passionately. "Silence, unfeeder. Forbidden be a crime punishable by banishment." Chavi hoped over the wall and stood beside Snow and her mother. "To raid such a nest, there are 3 you must first fly over or through," called the boy back at his kin. "So be it, child," growled the gathering. As one they struck, a flock with a single simple mind and purpose. Snow and Star were caught in the darkness of the just night, still awaiting Luna's kiss to grant them power. Chavi, though, knew his kind and how they thought. He turned against his mind's orders to strike down the enemy and feed. That signal had come the first time he had drawn too close to Snow, and he had been able to resist the vampire urges then. "Stay behind me," urged Chavi of the 2 silver. As the wave passed over the barrier of stone, it flew at the young vampire and slipped by. 60 claws slashed at the trio, drawing thin lines of crimson. Without Chavi standing before them, the Fae would have been slashed to pieces. The boy, acting as his own wall, gave the 2 the moment they needed. At Luna's kiss, the light of holy sun burst forth as Star expired. Half the shadow was touched, and with a scream they burned to lifeless ash. 15 still remained and moved with swiftness through the snows. Snow bravely sped after, but the night had weakened her, slowed her. Chavi flew past, over the snows, his claws not marking the pure white as his leathery wings caught the air and molded it to his urgent needs. As the seeking post and great fire came into view, Chavi hung back as Sylvie threatened with spear. Behind the little vampire came the remains of the shadow. As one they blew and the fire vanished. Then they made to strike. Again turned Chavi, and he stood before Silver and the seeking post, and the shadow passed by. Into the nest flew the vampire. One by one the shadow was snuffed, but not before their threat came true. As Snow stood beside her brother and her friend, she wept at the silence. Love had charged the ultimate price and taught the harshest lesson of all.